first thing you want to do is really check out your health of your actual profile. So the way that you could do that is actually go to your own profile and look at your information that you have out there. And so I just want to kind of walk through a couple of things that you want to consider for your profile. All right. So first thing I want to encourage you to do is right here where have the banner up on mine, you'll see it says every veteran has a story. I would encourage you, if your banner today is that blue basic LinkedIn banner, to change it to something else that represents you. So it could be something related to the trade that you're in. It could be something related to what you're looking to do next in your career. But really encourage you to move away from just this static blue banner if you can. So the story behind my banner, this one that I selected, is Has Heart, which is over here. This is actually a sticker that they're selling, and I purchased this a while back. And so this is just kind of represents my heart for the community. And I do believe every veteran has a story. So it just goes along with my passion for the military community and also for the nonprofits. So sometimes it's a good a good conversation starter. People will ask me like, well, what does that mean? And then I can share with them, a little bit more about my passion around nonprofits and giving and giving back. The next thing I'd encourage you to do is your profile photo. So if you have a profile photo and you're not smiling in it, or if it's a really antiquated profile photo, I would really encourage you to update it. Of course, right now with coronavirus, I'm not encouraging you to go out, but I'm just saying with whatever you have in your home profile of photos that you might look through, if you don't have one where you're smiling, or if you have one that's really, really old and you've got a newer one at the house that you could upload, consider uploading that. The next section is going to be your title. So sometimes I see in the title section, it may have like your last job title. Some people have no title at all. I really would encourage you, if you're seeking a job at the moment, the first thing you want to do is do hashtag ONO, which means that you're open to new opportunities. After you do hashtag ONO, you then want to come in and look at the top 3 job titles you're considering. So if I wasn't today a regional site leader, and that's the role I was seeking to do, I would have hashtag ONO, then I would do the little line like I have here, and I would put regional site leader, and then I'd pick the next 2 job titles I'm considering. And the reason you want to do that is when you think about recruiters looking at your profile, the way that you'll show up more likely in their search is based on you having the job titles that they're hiring for, the ones that you're looking for on your profile. So consider updating that if you haven't. Also remember that in this section, you don't necessarily have to spell out like seeking for a new position. That's kind of where the hashtag ONO helps. But if you'd rather do it that way, you can do that as well. So that's another option to do. Here it'll show your connection. So this just shows how many people you're connected to at this current moment. One thing I want to share with you, about a year ago is when I started getting really active on LinkedIn. And when I first joined LinkedIn, I had less than 500 connections. So today, if you have a lower amount of connections, no worries. Some of the tips I'm going to share tonight, hopefully if you'll put them into action, you'll start seeing your networking grow on LinkedIn. But one reasons why it's important you'd want to try to look at getting to 500 or more is once you have 500 connections on LinkedIn and to do a few other action items, you're considered all-star status. And so you want to achieve all-star status because that also helps you with showing up more frequently in searches. I also would encourage you to make this more of a milestone goal. So if you're starting out, say tonight, and you're looking at your profile and you have, let's say, you have 120 contacts, I think going from 120 to 500 may seem like a lot to do. So consider setting a goal for yourself that's reasonable between now and say June 15th. That's almost 30 days from now. Where would you like to be? That's what I did in the very beginning. So it wasn't such a huge goal to take on. So I would definitely encourage you to maybe set some milestones for yourself that will help you. Right below that section, you'll see that there's a section that only recruiters can see and only you can see. If this section is blank and you're currently seeking a position or currently looking for a new position, you definitely want to update this. So I did this earlier to show you kind of what it would look like. So what you do is you clicked on the little pencil. Sorry, I went maybe faster. So click on the pencil. And again, only you can see this. So if you're currently working, but you are looking for another role, this isn't something that your employers can see. And then you can select up to 5 job titles that you're interested in next. So in my particular profile here, I went ahead and selected 5 things related to community. But let's say you were looking for something like a business analyst role. Well, you would look for 5 job titles that are related to business analyst, and you would add those in here. Then where it says job locations, you're going to add the cities that you would consider working in. So if you're someone who currently lives in Austin, Texas, and Austin would be the only city you currently would consider, then you would want to leave it just as Austin. But let's say you're someone who also has lived on the East Coast before and you would consider a role, if it was the right role and the right opportunity on the East Coast, then you may want to add like Philly and Baltimore and Maryland to your location. But again, I would really encourage you to only add job locations that you're willing to actually consider. Like, so if you're in Austin and you're also considering San Antonio, for example, or you're considering Dallas, then I would add those as well. Right under here, you'll see where it says only recruiters. So this little option right here means only recruiters can see this. So this isn't something like if you were to connect with me later, I wouldn't be able to see this, nor could anybody who works at the same company. If for some reason you said, I'm actually not seeking a position at this time, you would just say, I'm no longer open, and you would delete those, and those would be gone. So this is how your profile may look today if you have nothing in that section. But again, if you're looking for a position, I would highly encourage you to update this because this is something that behind the scenes recruiters are able to pull from. So that would be something to really do there. Next is the About Me section. So this is the section where you really get to brag on yourself. I'll be honest and say my About Me section, I updated this about 3 months ago, and I feel like I still need to revise it after hearing some different tips from different people on LinkedIn. But the way you want to think about the About Me section is this isn't just copying and pasting your resume. So the About Me is kind of like, think of it like your elevator speech, but the extended version, a little extended, right? So this is like your best of who you are, the best of the best skills that you bring to a potential job, your key project highlights. So those of you that may have numbers or figures, or you know that you supported X amount of community service projects last year, or you worked on X amount of events. That's something you'd put in this section. This section is also where you'd want to describe what problem you could solve for that company. So if you're someone who's really great with data, you may want to call out that your strength is with data, and here's the data type of problems or type of work I can solve for you. So really ensure that this section has your best of your best stuff. And again, it's not designed to be your whole resume. So don't take it from just a copy and paste your resume. I would say take out the best and brightest pieces of your resume that speak to who you are and put that in this section. The other tip on the About Me section is you actually want the About Me section to be written in the first person. So you don't want to be like Summer, like my profile. I wouldn't say Summer has done great things in the community engagement space, because I'm talking about myself. So it really should be I and not Summer. So just another tip about the About Me section. All of the sentences in this section should start with I, or be first person sentences because it's about you. Scrolling down a little bit more, here is your featured section. As you can tell, I don't actually have any features in here at the moment. It's one of my goals is to get some features added here in the next month. But the featured section is another great place to showcase your work. So if you're someone who has worked on some video clips, or if you've done some really cool flyers maybe for an organization, or you have any kind of information that really showcases who you are as far as your work, I would put it up there. And of course, remember to follow the policies for the company you work with as far as your sharing and compliance policy. So anything that you're putting out here on LinkedIn, of course, is free visibility to anybody. So if you've worked on stuff that's proprietary to your company or that you are not allowed to share externally, then the featured section is not where you'd want to put that. But this is stuff that you could share externally as you're considering that. And to start with the featured section, it'd be great if you had one thing, right? So like my personal goal is to actually get at least one thing in my feature section uploaded between now and the middle of June. So that's a task I have on my list to work on. The next thing is your dashboard. So you see how it has this all-star here in the corner? This is one of the things that you're going to be wanting to strive for. And the all-star status does have to do with your connections as well. So this also does look at the fact that, as I was mentioning earlier on, if you have 500 or more connections, that's one of the factors that makes you all-star. It also helps in the search engines that you'd actually get found quicker or more frequently by recruiters. So that's that. And then here you come down to your experience section. Encourage you to update your experience. Make sure if you've worked at a location for a long time, be sure to break out your jobs. Like in my case, I've been with USA for 20 years. And so what I wouldn't want to do is just put my current job title and it seemed like been in this one position for 20 years. Same thing with you. If you've been at a company, let's say for 5 years or 10 years, and you've moved around and done different roles, do your best to actually fill out the different roles you've done. As you can see in Minds, I need to still come back in and update my current role. It just has the amount of time, but it doesn't have any description below it. But as much as you can, I would say fill these in with the job title. And keep in mind, you can change the job title a little bit so that people understand what it is. So, like my job title right before the one I have now, I actually changed it to bank branch manager because that's a more commonly used term in the industry. Whereas internally, my job title at USAA was financial center manager. Well, a lot of people would not know what a financial center is if they haven't been to one before. So it might be like, what? What's that role? What did you do? So if you have a position in your history that's like that, that's very unique to that company, consider when you put it out here, make it readable and understandable to people who are outside of your industry. So when people see bank branch manager, they all can connect with that and know what that is, even if they weren't in banking. Like they all get, okay, she was at a bank, she was over the branch. Okay, got it. Like they understand what that role is. Next is your education section. So go ahead and add your degrees in this section. You do want to put in your degrees that are completed. If you're currently working on a degree, that's awesome. On this section, though, it would be your completed ones that you've done already. This next section also lets you add your licenses and certifications. So in my case, I don't have any of my other licenses added, but I recently took a LinkedIn course, and so that shows up here. And then here's your volunteer experience. This is anything you've done for volunteer work in the community. And the top 3 things you've done are going to be showcased here. So, what I'd encourage you, if you're someone who's done a lot of community work with a lot of different organizations, try to think of your top 3 best or most recent. So, if you can see on my profile, I'm the creative director with Black Women in Business. So that's one I left on my profile because I've had almost 2.5, it'll be 2.5 years soon with Black Women in Business volunteering. I just started volunteering with Dress for Success, so I added this on my profile. And then I've been a member of my sorority for 17 years, and so that one I just added recently when I saw that the sorority was an option as well. The next section is your skills and endorsements. So this is where you want to be able to showcase your best skills. So it's going to default with some skills based on your job history and your job profile. Just know that you can actually come in here with the little pencil and add a new skill. You can also rearrange the way your skills are showing, right? So based on what you're looking to do next, it may show one of the skills that's just not like your top priority personally. And so you can actually rearrange them and so that the top skills are showing. So like here, you'll see on Minds, my top 3 that people would see when they scroll through would be leadership, community outreach, and event planning. All the rest of my skills are still there, but they're lower, they're in a lower descending order. And then also the numbers next to them indicate the number of people that have endorsed me for that skill on LinkedIn. So that's part of why building your network's really good and really important, because you'll be able to, the more you add to your network, the more other people would vouch and say that you have demonstrated that skill or they've worked with you before and they've seen that in you. And that's helpful as well, along with recommendations. So this is a section where if you have a really good relationship with a prior coworker or prior boss, once you have your profile up to date and you've kind of done the first set of steps we just talked about, I would reach out to them and ask for a recommendation, right? So that you want to be able to give recommendations to other colleagues or folks you've worked with, but then you'd also want to encourage to receive them, especially if you're currently looking for a particular role. And then the bottom part here is going to be your languages and organizations that you belong to. So I'm going to pause there for just a moment. Did we have any questions that popped in? Or anybody have any questions about the profile itself?
We don't have any questions in the chat, but I'll go ahead and people who are on video, you can unmute yourself. If you're on the phone, I'm not sure if you have that option, so I'll unmute for you. And if anyone has any questions, just feel free. And if not,
I have a question, but I don't know if it's the right place to ask it.
Sure.
Go ahead.
How many are you supposed to have on LinkedIn? How many contacts?
Like how many are recommended for the all-star status, or are you just saying what's like the maximum you can have?
Like, not for all but like, what is the recommended amount?
I would say that the recommended amount would be to achieve 500 or more so that you can get to all-star status. The
Okay, thank you.
the
This is my question.
yeah, yeah, the maximum amounts you can do is about, I think it's 3,000 if I'm not mistaken. I'm not 100% sure, but I think the max you can have is like 3,000 connections.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
You can mute me again.
Okay.
Hello. How are you?
Good. Was somebody else trying to ask a question?
Nope. I think she was just
Okay.
going back to her conversation.
Okay, got it. All right. So the next thing I wanted to share with you, we kind of are going to step away from our profile for a minute. The next thing I wanted to share with you is just a lot of times you'll hear people that are on LinkedIn, that are on LinkedIn regularly say that they're consistent. And a lot of times when people say that to someone, the question is kind of like, well, what's consistency mean? And you kind of get like a weird, like, I don't know, I just log in all the time. And that's not really helpful when you're brand new starting out on LinkedIn, because you're like, I have no idea what that means. So here's a couple of tips I'll give you as far as building some consistency on LinkedIn. Right after you start working on your profile, the next two things I'm going to share with you regarding building your network is, one is to go through and anybody that you've collaborated with on prior jobs or on prior community service projects or any way you're involved personally in the community, it would go through and look here and see if they're on LinkedIn and send them a request. So if I wasn't sure if someone was on LinkedIn, what I could do is just type in the name. And oops, I missed. So let's say I was trying to see if Caroline Favilo is one of the folks that I know in the community, and see if she actually has if she has a LinkedIn profile. Well, as I come in and I look, I see that these that are showing up are from different countries: Italy, Brazil, and I'm like, okay, so this isn't her because she actually lives in Austin. Let's assume I spelled her name right. And so I do another search, and nope, this isn't her. So this is how I would pretty much be able to go through and see if anybody's in my that I know personally is in there. The other thing that LinkedIn will do is it'll also give you people that it's suggesting over here in this section. It's called My Network, right? So you can come to My Network, and and what it's going to do is it's going to actually show. So these are people that have sent invitations. Right now, where it says ignore or accept, I can either accept or ignore their invitation based on, do I know them? Does it look like somebody I'd want to connect with based on where they live, what they're doing? I would encourage you to just be a little cautious on LinkedIn. It's just like any other social media platform tool. Be leery of things like someone who's asking to connect with you that has, like, say, maybe only 5 connections, or be leery of someone who maybe lives overseas and you don't have any connections in common. So I would just say use some good rationale. Just use your own good safety measures, because again, there's people out there who may have a fake profile. It's not really them, and so that's just my thing. Is I'm leery of connecting with someone who maybe only has a couple of connections, unless I already know you, right? So if I personally know you and I know you're building your LinkedIn profile and getting on LinkedIn, that's one thing. But if I don't know you, I'm a little leery to accept someone who might only have like 6 connections or 12 connections, because I'm not sure if it's really them or if it's fraud. So just be mindful of that. Then what LinkedIn does is, it based on your profile, and again, as you start getting in and logging in and you're more active on the forum, it starts sending you people that you may know. So you notice, like here, I work at USAA. So what it's doing is it's sending me people that I potentially may know because I work at USAA. And so I could look through these and see if there's somebody in this section that I'm like, oh yeah, I've actually worked with Stephanie before. I would like to connect with her. And so what I would do is, if that was the case, I'd click here. You can do 2 ways. You can click connect, and it just sends Stephanie basically like a kind of like what I call almost like a cold call to connect with you. I would encourage you to only use that if you really know the person and you know that there's like kind of no question of who you are to them. They're someone you really know well. If I didn't know Stephanie that well, but we've worked on like say one or two projects, and I was kind of like, maybe I should reach out. It'd be good to add her to my network. What I'd want to do is click on her name versus the word connect, because again, connect just sounds kind of like just a generic, hey, Summer McAfee wants to connect with you. So I click on her profile, and when I get to Stephanie's profile, you'll see that there's a button right here called More. So you'll click on the More button, and then what I'd want to do is actually message her. Bear with me. It's a little bit different on the desktop than it is on your phone, and I primarily use LinkedIn on my phone. So that's the other tip I'll give you is download the app, because the app it's so much easier to use. Okay, so this tip works well on the mobile app. Maybe it doesn't work well on the desktop. So I actually am not a premium member anymore. I stopped paying for the LinkedIn premium. But what it does on the mobile app is that there's actually going to be right here on the More, and this is part of the free functions. Under More, there's one that's going to allow you to actually send her a message. And so I get to send Stephanie like a short message, and I get to also request to connect with her. And so by doing that, instead of just sending Stephanie like a blank, hey, Summer McAfee wants to connect with you on LinkedIn, I could actually be like, hey, Stephanie, we worked on the, ABC project last fall, would like to connect with you, saw you show up on my LinkedIn profile options. Hope you're doing well. And then, I mean, like there's a little bit of information or a tidbit there with her that I could send. So I highly encourage you to use that feature. Again, and on your mobile app, it's free. On the desktop, I think if you don't have it, if you're not premium, it didn't look like I could do it. The other thing that it does is once your city is correct, so again, if your profile has the correct city and your correct college information, because I went to UTSA, these are people that all went to UTSA, so it's going to give me some folks that I may know from college. Again, another way to grow your network is if you do know some of these folks, is to do the same step, reach out to them. Again, if it's been a couple of years or you haven't talked to them recently, I would include that quick free note with your request, so that it's not just a cold message and they're not sure, where they came from. And then these are folks that have similar roles to me. So this is what LinkedIn just did is they combed through and they sent these folks to me because they have a similar job title as me. Doesn't necessarily mean that I know them, but I could definitely go through those and see if there's somebody I know or somebody I'd like to get to know as well. And then in the people you may know in Austin section, this is actually connections and folks that actually live in Austin. And so then what I could do here is I could do the same thing. I could either click on connect, or I could actually send Erin a quick note and be like, hey, Erin, I've enjoyed your prior HCD workshops, would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. And then when she gets it, she'll have a quick little message from me as well to go with that. And then your industry, again, based on your profile, whatever industry you're in, this information is just pulling for me financial services industry. And so it's pulling out folks from that industry to see, again, another opportunity for me to grow my network and connect with other people here as well. And then once you join a couple of communities, you will be able to see people in your community group in this section. So these folks, they're all part of Lazy's and Edward's winning network community, which I'm a part of as well. And so if I was going to reach out to one of them, I would include in my message, hey, we're both part of Lazy and Edward's winning network community. Would love to connect. Right. So again, just giving people a reference of how they know you or where you know them from, or that you've attended something with them is great. And then it gives me recommended pages to follow. So these are all pages that it's like, hey, these pages might be relevant that you'd want to follow. If I was interested in following them, all I would have to do is click follow. And those updates and information from that company or that organization will now show up in my news feed. Anybody have questions on this section as far as just leveraging your My Network tab and connecting with folks through this section?
Someone wrote in the chat asking, is this app is more for someone looking for a job or more related to connection? Yeah.
I'm going to say it's both, actually. So I'm on LinkedIn every day, even in seasons when I'm not looking for a job, right? Part of it is for me to actually grow my professional network. So one thing, my backstory of one of the reasons I got super active on LinkedIn is because I have been at the same company for 20 years. Most of my professional connections were at the same company. And so part of the reason of me starting to log in here and be more active was so I could actually expand my network and meet people in other companies, that I didn't actually work at, so I could get connections at Dell, and I could have connections at UT, and I could have connections at, the local hospital. And I mean, just building relationships with other areas, which I don't work in all those places, but now I have different connections in those places as well.
Yeah, and if I could add, so there's also
Yeah.
a job searching feature on here that's totally for if you're searching for a job. Like it's kind of like any other job site, like Indeed or Glassdoor. Like if you see on Summer's desktop, there's a little section that says jobs. And I don't know, maybe Summer was planning to talk about that later, but if you're just wanting to job search, it would obviously be a good idea to kind of build up your network and build up your profile before looking for jobs on LinkedIn. But I think it's a great place to look for jobs. I really like their layout, how they do it for job search on LinkedIn. And if you're not looking for a job, then it's always an opportunity, like Summer said, to just kind of grow your network, build up your profile, so that when you are looking for a job, you can do it on LinkedIn, and people can see all of your accomplishments and positions and everything all in one place.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for that ad.
Of course.
The other thing I'll share with y'all is another thing to consider when you're thinking about networking is you'll see over here to the left that I'm part of 18 LinkedIn groups. And I wouldn't say I'm super active in all 18 because all 18 don't do things year round. But I would encourage you to look around once you start looking inside of LinkedIn and consider joining a group or two. That's a great way to also build your network as well. Right here in Austin, if most of the folks are in the Austin area, one group that I'd recommend is the LinkedIn Local. And so there's a LinkedIn Local ATX. Okay, so you see on my page when it shows up, mine says unfollow, right? So I'm just going to unfollow it for a minute. So on yours, if you're not currently following this hashtag, when you get here, you'll see it says follow. You can click on that. And now what it'll do is it'll help send information to your news feed that's actually about LinkedIn Local ATX, which this happens the first Wednesday of every month. And it's free. Right now they're doing it on Zoom, but it used to be in person. But for right now, it'll be over Zoom. So that's just kind of one example of how you can use the hashtags and start following them. So if today you don't follow any hashtags, I would encourage you to follow some. I have a list of hashtags that I kind of curated for this event, and I'll share them with Mia to share out afterwards. But here's another hashtag that I would encourage you to look at is Austin Jobs. So if you're looking for jobs in Austin, you see that this has 404 followers. Again, if you're not following it, when you arrive, you're going to see the word follow. You're just going to click on follow. It changes to following. And now in your newsfeed, you'll see stuff related to Austin Jobs. Another real popular one, I'm just going to show you a couple. I have like about a dozen or more that I pulled out that I'll share. I'll send the list over to me to reshare to the group. But another good hashtag is this hashtag hiring now. So you see hiring now has over 26,000 followers. Now, the one caveat I would give you is hiring now is used by folks all across the globe. So it's not going to be specific to just Austin Jobs. But again, if you're not following hiring now, when you pull up, you're going to see it says follow. Click on it. Now you're following it. And again, everything that's in your news feed after you look at that is all related to hiring now. So this would be information you could kind of browse through and see if any of these things interest you or any of these jobs that they might be hiring for or ones that you'd want to apply for. There's also a hashtag called Texas Jobs. That's another good one to look at, and that's more again if you're open to stuff across Texas, that's probably a good one. If you're looking specifically for Austin, keep in mind that Texas Jobs is going to be a broader group of folks posting under this hashtag. Again, if I'm not following it, I want to go ahead and click on follow. It'll change it to following. And then all of these articles and information that are out here now that I'm seeing are these all use the hashtag Texas Jobs. So I could see something, if I'm interested in it, I could go ahead and like the post. The one thing I would tell you to encourage you to do is if you're someone who logs in occasionally and does liking of posts, where the real power on LinkedIn is to actually become a regular commenter. So take a couple of minutes here and there and actually commenting on a post is actually going to help the algorithm and actually help you get more visibility on this platform than it is simply liking things. So liking things is a good starting point. I mean, I would definitely say it's better than not doing anything on the platform. But if you were going to come in and say twice a week, spend 15 minutes on LinkedIn to start with, 10 minutes, whatever the number of minutes it is for you, I would tell you out of those 10 minutes you might devote to being on LinkedIn, I would spend more time commenting and connecting with people than simply liking posts. Like a couple of posts, but really the power is going to be in connecting with other people and also commenting on existing posts that are out there. So anybody have any questions about the hashtags? And just like I started that, I mean, I kind of can go down a rabbit hole of looking for hashtags. So once I do that, again, there's also the Austin general one. This one's not specific for jobs, but if you were looking for stuff related to Austin, if you search the Austin hashtag, you'll see there's like 4,000, little over 4,000 followers on it. And again, this is going to be a variety of topics. They should all be related to Austin if people tagged it correctly. Again, these are self-selected tags. So occasionally people select stuff that's maybe not always related. But this is a good way if you want to just get some general Austin stuff in your feed to follow the Austin hashtag. And this one actually has better followers, just hashtag Austin, than does hashtag ATX on LinkedIn. Hashtag Austin, Texas has less followers. So just hashtag Austin is a great one to get general Austin information. So I'm going to pause here for a moment. Does anybody have any questions about the hashtags and how to start following them and engaging with folks through their posts that they've done underneath that hashtag?
I'll go ahead and unmute the phone people.
Because she wanted to know why was I, she said, you all right?
Anyone
No,
calling in have a question about the hashtags?
the house. I seen everybody there for Boosie and Grace.
One of these challenges,
And I said, Grace,
There's a lot going on in there.
in my own
Okay.
way.
Okay, I'll
But I
mute them
guess I
back.
got her upset
Okay.
all over again. Cause
All right. So the next thing is going to be jobs. And so here's where you can actually look for job searches. So you can manage your alerts right here. You can actually search for jobs in a specific location. So let's say I was looking for a position. Let's just say I was looking for a project manager job, project manager. And let's say I wanted to look in Austin for it. What it did is it shows me all the project manager jobs that are currently listed for Austin. And so these are in order, typically they're in order by the time that they were posted. So if you notice, this one was just posted 16 hours ago. This one was 23 hours ago. And then it was like a day ago. So if I was looking for a project manager role, what I could do is come in here, look through this, and then I could start applying if there was some project manager positions open that I thought, okay, I think I meet the qualifications for this, and this is a company I'd be interested in working for. Again, if you can turn your job alerts, if it's off, I encourage you to turn it on if you're actively seeking a new position. So that way you will get alerts and get emails as well when job postings come up. They typically send them once a day, and they do send them over as a batch email at one time. So like if you were looking for, let's say, executive assistants or administrative assistant, what they would do is they would send you one email, and it has like the new administrative assistant positions that came open overnight, like within the last time they emailed you, you'll get a batch email with those. And so that gives you a way to look through and see what's available there as well. I can also sort my information. So once I have like the project manager jobs, like in this example, I could go through and actually sort them. So I could say I want to see them by their dates they were posted. If there's a specific company I'm looking to work for, I could sort them by a company. So I could see if that company in particular had any positions open in this space. I also could do them by mileage. So let's say I'm someone who I could work up to 100 miles outside of Austin. So I could say up to 100 miles and hit apply. And I may end up even with more jobs available in that project manager space because I'm able to look at jobs up to 100 miles from where I'm at now. If I wasn't open to working to a job that's up to 100 miles, then I probably want to switch it back to like the 10, 25 miles, depending on what I'm comfortable with. And then that way I can actually see jobs that I would be willing to apply for if I'm not looking to travel out as far. So that's how that feature works there. Then I could click back on jobs. You'll also notice based on this is another great reason to have your profile filled out as completely as possible and up to date with what you've done previously. You see that based on my profile, it's actually listing some jobs based on what I have on my profile that I may qualify for. Again, it's just based on what you have input in your profile. So the more thorough your profile is, the more likely it would potentially send you jobs that are related to what you might be looking to do next. Here is also where you'd want to come in and update your information. If you're someone who's open to working in another location, you can also come here. So I did initially for Austin, but let's say if I was open to a good job opportunity, if it came up in Dallas, then I would want to also search my Dallas options and see what comes up in that section as well. So that's available there. You can also save jobs. So let's say I saw this Whole Foods business process improvement program manager, and I'm like, this one seems kind of interesting. I might be interested in it. I can also save it. Like, let's say I'm not ready to apply right now. Maybe I'm in the middle of cooking dinner or I'm about to wrap up dinner for the day, so I don't have time right this moment. I can click save. And then now when I go back to my jobs list, it'll be on my saved jobs list. So then I could actually come back in, let's say tomorrow or after dinner, if I wanted to apply for this position, I would have time to come in and kind of look through everything, make sure my resume and profile is updated, and then I could actually apply for the job. So that's a good way too. If you see something and you're busy at the moment or you're about to log off for that time, you can save it and come back to it. So anybody have any questions about the job section or looking at jobs in this section?
I don't see
All
anyone
right.
in the chat, so looks like we're all good.
And so then the last thing I'm going to show you is just the home section. So the home section is similar to if you use Facebook or Instagram, just any other social media outlet. Home is kind of like your news feed. And so this is where in the beginning, if you're currently not following many hashtags or as involved with as many groups, you may come in and not see as much information in the home section. But that's where I really would encourage you to start following some of the different hashtags. Even as you start reading stuff and looking through here, if there's a hashtag that you're like, okay, I would love to see more stuff on women empowerment. And if it was one of the hashtags that they used in this article, for example, I could click on it here and then start following it as well. But here's where you could spend a couple of minutes just kind of going through your news feed. Again, like I mentioned, liking stuff is cool on LinkedIn, but that's really not where you want to spend more of your time. It's actually adding comments is where you're really going to find that you can build more community and can build more connections, right? Especially with people who log into LinkedIn all the time pretty regularly, they're typically not going through their likes and reaching out to connect with people. I mean, it's very rare that I've heard someone who's pretty active on the platform go through all their likes and see who's new and send them a request and connect with them. I mean, that just doesn't normally happen. But if you leave a comment on stuff, there seems to be a little bit more engagement from folks as well. The other benefit of you commenting is you also are helping the person in your network. So you kind of like when you talk about building relationships, the more frequently you comment on stuff, the more frequently that post actually gets out to people in your network. So for example, with this women, it's called Women of Glimmer. So if none of you are following Women of Glimmer, but I am, and so I like their posts and I comment on their posts. If you're connected to me on LinkedIn, there's a possibility their post will show up in your feed. And what it'll show on the very top up here, it'll be like Summer liked this post or Summer commented on this post. And so the more you engage like that, that's also how you add value on the platform, right? So the more active you are, the more frequently you're doing that, the more likely you are going to be able to build other connections, build other relationships. And then it's kind of like a pay it forward system, right? So those folks who do regularly post and engage and comment, it's almost like, I comment and engage on your stuff. You try to comment and engage on my stuff when you have something to add. And that's just kind of the reciprocal. It's almost like kind of the currency of LinkedIn. Like even though there's no money exchange, just being on the platform on the free version, like the version I'm using right now, there's no cost to me. But I would say that's kind of the cost as far as like relationship building is like, I'm going to engage in your stuff. You'll engage in my stuff. And in the beginning, if you're not writing your own post or posting anything on LinkedIn, I would really encourage you to at least consider commenting more frequently on other people's things until you start feeling like, okay, I have something I'd like to share or want to write about and put it out here on LinkedIn. But this is where I would spend a couple of minutes. So if I was only going to be on LinkedIn, say for 10 minutes this Thursday. I started out trying to do it just like a twice a week thing when I very first started with LinkedIn. And one of the ways that I built consistency for myself is I actually put it in my calendar. So if you're a calendar person, I would encourage you consider blocking off, 10 to 15 minutes on your day. Senior executive leaders, just as another tidbit, they're on LinkedIn. Typically, the time frame that they're most likely on LinkedIn is between 7 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. So if you're able to block off even 10 to 15 minutes in that early hour of the day, you are more likely to possibly be able to engage with some of the senior executive leaders from other organizations. And even if it's not that, I'll tell you that's the highest time of frequency just in general. So people are kind of getting ready for work, getting ready to start their day. You'll see LinkedIn engagement like late in the evenings or middle of the day is very low. Doesn't mean that there aren't people on the platform. There are, but the frequency of how active people are, it tends to be very first thing in the morning, kind of around that supper dinner time, and then it trails off. And Saturdays and Sundays are the lowest days of LinkedIn engagement. So again, if you're going to build out like a plan to start being on here, just say 2 days a week, I would really encourage you not to be Saturday and Sunday because you're going to get the lowest amount of engagement and the lowest of visibility. So if you're going to pick 2 days a week, I'd encourage you to consider Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. And the reason I'm picking those 3 days is those are the three highest days of engagement on LinkedIn. And I got that from a LinkedIn paid workshop I went to. So it's based off, I'm giving it to you secondhand, but I think it's pretty true because I will tell you my Friday posts and Saturday and Sunday posts don't get very much engagement. A post that I do Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday tend to get better engagement on the platform. So that's just a couple of tidbits to consider to start getting you active on the platform there. One last thing I'll do, and I'll open it up for questions, is when you're talking about groups, there is a LinkedIn ATX group. So if you were looking for a group to join just to get your feet wet and start being part of a group, the LinkedIn ATX group is LILATX. And so there's not a whole lot of activity in this group until right before the next LinkedIn local, which again is the first Wednesday of every month. But it's not a bad place to be if you get what I mean. Like the group's not super active because it meets one Wednesday a month, but if you can see, even just from building your Austin connection, there's 113 members in here. So you could go ahead and connect and join the group. And even if you aren't able to make, like, say, the next first Wednesday in June, you're not able to make the event, you still could come in here and connect with some of the folks that are in this group. So that's part of the goodness of being part of a group like this is that you're able to do it. There's no fees or cost to be in the group. Some groups have some rules on LinkedIn. So just if you sell, like if you, for example, if you like sell Mary Kay or sell, any of those other entrepreneur type businesses, just be sure to read your group's rules because some of them have things where you can't solicit and can't sell in the group. But just take a look at those. Usually about the group, in the about group section right here, tells you if there is some kind of ground rule like that where you can't sell your products or services in there. But other than that, it's a good way to get started. And like I said, this group's not super active, but it would be a good way to get you in one Austin group and then keep building your groups from there, and adding some more groups is a good way to network. And then encourage you to go to some of the virtual events too. So one of the things that's happening a lot right now on LinkedIn is there are a bunch of groups offering virtual events. So consider going to a virtual event, especially the free ones. Consider going to something like this tonight, going to others that are offered throughout the coming days and weeks, and trying to set a baseline for yourself of trying to go to maybe it's one every other week or whatever the number is for you. Set a goal and then try to work towards getting to that goal. So I know we're about 5 minutes to the end of our time together. I wanted to kind of yield the last 5 minutes if anybody has any other questions that I could answer or help you with that are generally related.
So anyone feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask any questions you have, or you can type it in the chat. And if you have a question that you think of after the presentation or something, you can always email it to me and I can pass it off to Summer, and hopefully we can help you with that. Anyone? And also, I have been recording this webinar. So if it's okay with Summer, obviously, I'll try to post this on our YouTube channels and some more social media. So if you guys maybe want to go back to this and listen to any of the tips she gave you, then you can do that as well. We have a question. Can you make a presentation how to use Zoom for our live? Okay, so it's not really about LinkedIn. It's just asking about how to use Zoom for a live webinar.
Okay.
So that might be a topic that we do in the future, just how to use Zoom maybe for, online interviews or how to join a webinar or anything like that if you guys need some tips with that. And actually, I do have a PowerPoint that one of our volunteers sent me about how to use Zoom. So you have a really long name on here, and I would be embarrassed if I tried to pronounce it. But I heard your question, and I will email you after this the PowerPoint on how to use Zoom.
Sounds good.
Anyone else have some last minute questions?
Well, feel free to reach out to me if you'd like to connect. For those of you that are looking to build your network, like I said, I'm now at the point I logged in daily, but I did start off with a smaller goal. So really, the best thing I'd like to leave you with in closing with is the fact that set yourself your own individual goal and what would work for you for LinkedIn, right? So whether it's the couple of minutes you're going to log in twice a week, or if it's for in the beginning, you're going to log in once a week, whatever your goal is, just set a goal and then stick with it. And I will tell you, LinkedIn is really one of those long game strategies. So you do have to be consistent. You do have to come back to the platform. You do have to nurture your relationships on here. So just keep in mind that you won't join today and then tomorrow, you've had instant overnight, flourishing, dozens of relationships. But if you're consistent, you keep coming back, you're engaging in the platform, you'll build really great relationships and really have an opportunity to network. And other people will start helping you. I mean, I literally will send jobs out like at 6 in the morning when I get up. It's one of the things I do real early before I start my regular corporate job is I actually go through the platform and I have what I call my circle of six. And so it's six ladies, a couple of them I've added from Dress for Success, helping them. And I can't help everybody at that level of job search, but I told myself I could help six people. And so I literally just go through LinkedIn and I send them jobs as I see them. And so I'm not saying everybody on the platform is going to do that, but I'm just saying as you build relationships, there's people who will look out if you make them aware of like, hey, I'm looking for a remote executive assistant position. I mean, there's two ladies in that circle of six that are looking for that. And anytime I see an executive assistant remote job, I send it to them. And so that's the beauty of LinkedIn is you can build some really healthy, good professional relationships, and don't be afraid to share with people what you're looking for because they may see stuff in their news feed that you don't see. And the more people know what exactly you're looking to do next, they can help you. So thanks for your time. It was good to see y'all virtually since I can't see you in person, and I hope to see y'all on LinkedIn in the future.